Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about how I deal with my anxiety. I was going to do a video on how I deal with my anxiety, depression, and PTSD, but I filmed it and I'm almost 30 minutes in and I'm not nearly done with anxiety yet. So I'm going to have to break it down into 3 parts. So in a couple days I will post one about depression and I will post one about PTSD. I want to thank all of my new subscribers. I love each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for supporting me and I can't wait to start this journey with you. Alright, let's go ahead and get into it. So to get started, I guess I'm just going to kind of talk about my anxiety a little bit. I was diagnosed with anxiety at 13 years old. I was put on medication. I can go over some of the medications that I took. I guess I can do like a separate video on that if you guys want to hear like some of the medications that I went on and what worked best for me, what didn't work for me at all, what I didn't like, what symptoms it gave me, things like that. I can do a whole separate video on that because I've been on quite a few different ones because some worked great and then stopped working, some didn't work for me at all, and it's just how it is. It's how any medication is. I have a whole list of stuff here that I want to go over today. So if you see me glancing down a lot, it's because I have a lot of stuff that I want to go over and I want to talk about, and I have it all written down so that I don't forget anything. So basically how I describe my anxiety to people is that I have, for example, like the best way to describe it, I guess, would be the angel and the devil on each shoulder. So like I have the angel on one side, that's basically like me in my right mind, and then the devil, which is my anxiety. I have a lot of things that trigger my anxiety, which is going to be one of the tips that I have for you guys. So tip number 1 is to figure out what your triggers are. Figure out what causes you the most anxiety. Figure out what causes your panic attacks. Figure out what those are, and if you can figure out why that is, that's even better. We'll get into that in a little bit though, but that's tip number 1, is identify what your triggers are for panic attacks or what causes your anxiety. I have a lot of triggers and I'll probably forget to mention all of them because I have a lot of them, but some of the things are throwing up. So I'm petrified to throw up, even though a lot of times, like if I am sick or I am not feeling good and I end up throwing up, it does make me feel a lot better. It's how everybody is. When your stomach is upset and it wants to throw up and then you do get it out, it feels so much better. But I'm petrified to throw up. I typically, when I was younger, I didn't like to travel 10 minutes outside of my house. So like I didn't want to go 2 towns over or whatever because it was too far away. I would not eat food that wasn't from my house, my school, or 10 minutes away from my house. If we were a half hour away, I wouldn't eat. I mean, even if we were there all day long, I wouldn't eat because it was too far away and the food was different. So when I'm in a panic attack, my triggers to make the panic attack worse, because I have different things. So like if I'm in a example, if I'm sitting here right now and you were to talk about the things that cause me worse anxiety, they wouldn't bother me. But if I'm in a panic attack and then you bring these things up, if you bring up anything to do with money, paying bills, how much you make at a job, anything to do with money, it makes my anxiety worse. If you talk about food, like what I've eaten that day, what we're gonna have for dinner, what your favorite food is, literally anything to do with food, it makes me upset because my stomach's upset, and then thinking about food makes it more upset, and then it makes me want to throw up even more. And full disclosure, like, I don't want anybody thinking I like make myself throw up or anything. I'm terrified to throw up, so I don't throw up, like, at all. Even when I'm sick, I'll do anything I can not to throw up. So I have a lot of things that cause me panic attacks and then cause my panic attacks to be worse if things get brought up, if that makes sense. So again, along the way, I'll mention what my triggers are because as of right now, throwing up, and honestly, it can just be like the snap of a finger. Like I could be driving down the road in my car jamming out to music with the windows down and I could get a panic attack. I'd just get that feeling in my stomach and my throat starts to like close up and I just get a panic attack. And so there's a lot of triggers that I haven't identified yet, and there's a lot of triggers that I have identified. I've been going to therapy since I was 9 years old. Therapy is like my second home. My therapist is great. If anybody needs a recommendation, you can hit me up on my social media. I will get you her information. She's awesome. I started going when my parents were in the process of their divorce. Then I stopped for like a year because there wasn't really a need, and then I got diagnosed with anxiety. And when you are under the age of 18, you are considered a minor, Captain Obvious, and you have to go to counseling or therapy if you are on any antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication, solely because they worry about suicidal thoughts and things like that. So they want to make sure that you're not thinking any bad thoughts or doing anything to yourself, and that's kind of what the therapist is for. Once you turn 18, you do not have to continue to go. I am 20 and I still go because I need it, because I am depressed. I do have anxiety, and she still helps me every single time that I go. She does give me homework. She gives me things to do that I need to work on. She's amazing. I typically didn't get out when I was a kid because I couldn't leave my house. I mean, I never really slept over people's houses when I was a kid. I slept over maybe a handful of times, maybe 2 handfuls of times, people's houses. That was it. I didn't have that sleepover stuff. I never did that as a kid. And there was pretty much only one person that could sleep over my house, only one friend that could sleep over my house that didn't cause me to have panic attacks, and that was the middle school best friend that's going to be a nurse that I had talked about. She used to like live in my house over the summers and stuff, and she was the only person that could sleep over my house without causing me to have a panic attack or anything like that. And it's somebody sleeping over my house, not me sleeping over their house, not anything like that. Just somebody being in my space, and somebody, I guess what the problem was is, like, if something were to happen and I wanted them to leave, it's rude to say, like, hey, you gotta go. Like, as a 13-year-old, you're not going to look at your best friend or whoever they are. You're not going to look at them and be like, hey, you got to go. Like, I'm having a panic attack. Like, you know? And I know that if it did come down to that with her, I could say that, and it would be perfectly fine because of how close we were, and she knew how bad my anxiety was, and she knew all that stuff, and she would never judge me. And I bet that a lot of my friends would have never judged me, but I just never felt close enough with any of my other friends to not feel that they wouldn't judge me. I never talked about my anxiety until I was about 18 or 19 years old, and I think me creating a YouTube channel is going to be a shock to a lot of people, because I guarantee you a lot of people didn't even know that I had anxiety and depression as bad as I do, because I never talked about it, because I was embarrassed about it. I don't talk about my anxiety typically until now, but I'm talking about it because I want to help people. I'm talking about it because I want people to know that there are things that you can do to get through it, and there are things that you can do to help your anxiety and help you become a stronger person and a stronger being, and be so strong in your own self. Until probably even like when I started my channel, I didn't talk about it. My aunt is really the only person that I am upfront and honest with about my anxiety and my depression. My aunt and my boyfriend, those are really the only 2 people that I'll call and be like, hey, I'm going through a really crappy time right now. Like, I just need to vent. I just need to talk about why I'm so depressed lately. And, like, they're the only 2 that I do that with. So, shout out to you guys. Love ya. But, yeah, I don't know. And I don't know really why those are the only 2 people that I do talk to. But it's true. Those are really the only 2 people that I go and am like, hey, like, this is what's going on in my life. I guess that's tip number 2, is find somebody that you can talk to about your anxiety, depression, PTSD, suicidalness, whatever it is. Find somebody that you can talk to about it. Find somebody that you can be so upfront and honest with and know that they won't judge you. Even if it's just somebody that you call and say, hey, I just need to tell you everything. Don't say anything back to me, and then when I'm done, I'm just going to hang up. Just somebody that's there to listen to you, because sometimes that's all it takes, is just getting it off your chest and getting it out of your own head. Because sometimes with anxiety and depression, you're so in your own head and everything's just running 1,000 miles per minute, and sometimes you just need to sit down and talk and like say it out loud. And my therapist, of course, I tell my therapist everything, but it's a different relationship, I guess. Like, not to say this, but I pay her to talk about my life. Like, I feel like you should have somebody that you don't have to feel obligated to go to. Like, It's somebody that if you are in a bad spot and you feel like talking to somebody, you can. And if you don't feel like talking to them for 5 months, you don't have to. It's completely up to you and them. But that's tip number 2 for me, is find somebody you can talk to about anything, whether it be a boyfriend, a best friend, an aunt, an uncle, a mom, a dad, or your next door neighbor, or whatever. Don't talk to strangers. Find somebody. I mean, like I said, it could be anybody, a teacher, a pen pal. Seriously, find anybody. You can talk to me, really. I mean, just find one person that you can rely on to talk to about anything. It means so much. So when I was in the 8th grade, we go on what's called a New York trip. We go to New York. We are there for 2 days and 1 night. We go see a Broadway show. We go to like the Hard Rock Cafe. We go to the M&M Museum. We go to the Twin Towers Memorial. We went to a whole bunch of different museums. We went to Times Square. We walked around Times Square for a little while. We did a whole bunch of different stuff. And then we stayed in a hotel. Okay, New York is where we stayed. I don't know, it was like an 8-hour drive. We took Peter Pan buses and it was like an 8-hour drive. We left that school morning at like 6 o'clock and I don't know, didn't get there. Okay, so maybe it was like 5 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. I don't even know. I don't remember. It was so long ago. But, so that morning I woke up, I had packed everything and I was okay the night before, but the morning I woke up, I cried all morning, okay? I cried to my mom that morning. I said, I can't go. Mind you, this trip cost my parents $500. So my mom was like, absolutely not, you're going. But that morning, I cried to my mom. My dad brought me to school that morning. I cried to him the whole way there and said, I can't go, I can't go, I can't go. I got out of the car. I was still crying in front of all my 8th grade friends. Like, I was bawling my eyes out because I was like, I can't go. I was having a panic attack the whole time, okay? And I had my little portable DVD player way back in the day when you had to, use the actual CD. And I had my portable DVD player, and I had my little iPod, and my middle school best friend, and I got on the bus, and I went. And it was the best experience of my entire life, and I do not regret going whatsoever. And mind you, I stayed up until 3 o'clock that morning. It showed me that pushing yourself can be the best thing ever, because if I didn't go, I would have missed out on so much fun. I mean, it was so fun, and I would have missed it if I let my anxiety take over that morning and I said, absolutely not, I'm not going. And I mean, thank you to my parents who, pushed me and said, no, you're going, tough. Because again, I mean, it's amazing to think about that I was going to hold myself back from that adventure, and I went, and it was incredible. I mean, I had the best time. Again, push yourself. That's tip number 3. Push yourself to do things you wouldn't typically do. Kind of going back to the whole triggers thing, people that you are around often need to know what your triggers are for regular anxiety, and when you have panic attacks, they need to know them so that they don't do it. So family members that you're always with, your boyfriend, your best friends, your softball team, your basketball team, your baseball team, your soccer team, whatever it is, the main people, your teachers, things like that, they need to know what your triggers are. Speaking of teachers, that's another one of my triggers. I am petrified to stand up and talk in front of people, in front of more than like 5 people. Terrified, absolutely terrified. I remember I had to stand up in the 8th grade and read an essay off of a paper that I had sitting in front of me. I had to read it, that's it, in front of my class, mind you, which was probably, I don't know, 16 to 18 people. I cried while reading it because I was having an anxiety attack. I cried the whole time. How embarrassing. Yeah. So that's another one of my triggers, is reading or talking in front of more than like 5 people at a time. Anyways, side note. So you need to tell people your triggers that you're closest with. So when I first started dating my boyfriend, I was 14 years old. Basically, I sat him down and I said, hey, so I need to talk to you about my anxiety. This is what triggers panic attacks, and we need to avoid it. And when I'm in a panic attack, when I have a panic attack, do not talk about this. Don't do this. Instead, do this. So this is another thing. You need to tell these people what to do when you get into a panic attack. You need to tell them what helps you. So typically for me, what helps me is talking about anything but anxiety or what I'm anxious about. So when my mom was still alive and I would be having a panic attack in school or wherever I was, I would text her and say anxiety, and she would call me and she would say, how was your day? What'd you do in school? Oh, I'm at work and this happened to me. When we get home, do you want to play Monopoly or whatever? She would distract me. She would use it as a distraction. So we would talk about anything and about everything. And that helps so much because it literally takes your brain from focusing on the anxiety and shifting it to whatever else you're talking about. I remember having a conversation one day on the phone with my mom for like 45 minutes about a math equation because that's what distracted me, and that's what she talked about because she saw that I was calming down, and she talked with me about it for the rest of our phone call. And after I got off the phone, I was completely fine. Typically now, if I have a panic attack, I can kind of relax myself. Hey, Chester's making his second appearance in my videos. I think it's going to be a ritual now that he makes his little appearance. Typically now, I can kind of control my anxiety pretty well, so I can kind of snap myself out of it without having to talk to anybody. But if I do need to talk to somebody, I call Kyle typically, and I just tell him, hey, I'm having a panic attack, and he starts to talk to me about his work day, about my work day, about what he's doing currently, about what I'm doing. He just talks to me about anything and everything, and it truly helps. It's just distraction. That's really it. When I was younger, if my mom couldn't calm me down on the phone or I couldn't relax myself or whatever it was, I would go to sleep. Sleep was the only other way that I could get myself to get out of a panic attack. When you go to sleep, your body resets, and that is how my anxiety would be. If I was in a full-blown panic attack, my body would reset itself and I would wake up and be perfectly fine for a couple moments. Whether I was hungry because I hadn't eaten that day, or whatever it was, I would have to take care of it before my anxiety started back up again. But I would typically have about 20 to 25 minutes after I woke up to figure out what the issue was and try to handle it before I had another panic attack. So I don't remember what tip I'm on. I think tip number 4 is to tell the people you are closest with what your triggers are, what makes your anxiety or panic attacks worse, and what helps you calm down. So make sure that people know how to deal with your anxiety and what causes it. So with the angel and devil scenario that I talked about a little earlier, the angel is me in my right mind and the devil is me while I'm in the middle of a panic attack or while I'm having anxiety. So typically I'm going to use this because this is typically when my anxiety mainly occurs. Mainly when we take those family vacations to Florida, I am great until the morning that we wake up and have to go, and then I'm very nervous, I'm very anxious, and I'm petrified to go. The reason why is because I think that the food is different in Florida. Well, I don't think that, but my devil thinks that. So me, my right mind, I know that we get oranges from Florida and our milk could come from Texas and wherever. I do realize that the food that I do eat now and have inside of my house right now is food from all over the United States. I know that. The devil, he doesn't know that though. He doesn't tell me that. He tells me that the food in Florida is going to make me sick because it's different from the food in Connecticut. No matter how much I tell myself the correct information and I reassure myself that I will not get sick. I've never gotten sick while I was in Florida. The food never gave me an upset stomach, never made me throw up or get sick or anything. The devil still repeatedly tells me that the whole morning, and I just get so nervous, and there's nothing that I can do about it. So the devil is screaming at me saying, you know, you're gonna get sick, you're gonna get sick. The angel's telling me, no, relax, it's fine, everything's gonna be fine. And that devil just continues to say, absolutely not, you know, and no matter how hard I try, the devil just always wins. It always seems to win. I do fight it, and again, it's something that I've worked really, really, really hard on with my therapist and for myself, it's something that I've worked really, really hard on to figure out how to do it and shut that devil out and make him stop saying these things that I know aren't true. So tip number 5, guys, is talk to your doctor. Don't do it alone, and don't be afraid to ask for help. This is not something that everybody can do on their own. Anxiety is not something that everybody can self-medicate on. Anxiety is something very, very serious. I know a lot of people that don't talk about it, that do have it, and it does typically get harder if you just try to shut it out and you just try to press it down and you don't do anything about it. It typically will get worse or harder. So again, my 5th tip for this video is to reach out and get help from your doctor. Don't go through it alone, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Seriously, you're in no wrong if you ask for help. Alright guys, so I think that's it for today's video. I will be back to talk about how I handle my depression and PTSD, and I hope you all stick around for that video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Bye!